Hello, my name's Naish from the Centre of Excellence in Child Trauma, and today I'm talking to you about understanding your traumatised child. So the reason that I am able to speak to you about all this is because I do have some experience. I am a therapeutic parent myself, and I have adopted 5 children, all siblings, now all adult. Before that I fostered many children, and I also worked in social work and have run therapeutic fostering agencies. I'm the best-selling author of quite a few therapeutic parenting books, and everything we talk about is based on real life experiences. So if you would like access to our resources or you need more support, just go to www.coect.co.uk. So at COECT then, parents ask us about why their children behave the way they do. But in order to heal our children, we need to stop thinking about why and start thinking how. How can we respond? It's okay to think about why things happen to the child in order for them to behave the way they do. But when we're thinking about, why are they doing that? It's not helpful to us and it's not helpful to the child. So we have to change our parenting in order to help the child change. So throughout this video, I'm going to be using the term parent. So some of you will be foster carers, you may call yourself therapeutic foster parent, adopters, kinship carers, but our children need people who are fully committed to them and are reparenting them in a way that's warm and nurturing, and that was what will help them to heal. So in order for us to understand about children who have suffered trauma, we're going to first of all look about what happens with a securely attached child. So here I've used the illustration of a wall which represents the child's internal working model, because we have to get those foundations right in order for the child to live and grow. So you can see at the bottom here we've got water, food, shelter, safety, hygiene and medical needs, and those are the real kind of basics that our children need in order for them to grow healthily and happily. So this child is obviously having their needs met, and as we build more onto the wall, the child is growing securely. That means that their synapses are forming in the brain. When they're upset, their parent comes and soothes them and meets their need. So if this child feels hunger, it doesn't know it's hunger, it just knows it feels uncomfortable in his body. And then, so he'll cry, and then the parent comes along and says, oh Dina, what's the matter? Soothes the child, identifies the need, and then meets that need by perhaps giving them a bottle or whatever. And in that way, the child learns what hunger is by the response of the parent. So our securely attached children, they're able to sleep happily, they're obviously getting touched appropriately, there's warmth, nurture, response from the caregiver and love. Now, as we get onto the third row, what we're seeing here is that the child is really beginning to learn that they're a person, like a separate little being, and they learn that because of the way that others are interacting and caring for them. So by having that kind of thing happening, like routine and structure, they learn to predict the future and to know that their needs will be met. So they can kind of relax a little bit, knowing that if they cry or if they're upset, someone is going to come and is going to look after them. So we see the development of eye contact and that response to routine and obviously stimulation. The child starts developing a sense of identity and they have consistency in their world. Here we have the next row. So water here is water as in water play and bath time and things like that. The child would have had water already to survive with. And the child is beginning to learn what they can and can't do, and they internalise that. So they internalise kind of boundaries that they can and can't do and what's happening in the world. Their language grows and the child becomes confident to explore and learn. They also learn about object permanence, because of course they haven't had that when they're really tiny, and that means that if somebody goes, they haven't disappeared forever. So that's a really important thing for them to feel secure, that someone goes but they're going to come back. Now we have the development of reciprocal joy. That's much more established. So the parent and the child delight in each other. We've all done that, haven't we? We go, oh dear, you know, high-pitched baby voices and everything. Having fun. The child is learning to play through toys, and they're growing stronger with more exciting activities. A secure child will approach these new experiences with curiosity, and obviously exercise helps them to grow stronger muscles and that kind of thing as well. A child learns from the very beginning to mirror and copy others. What they see around them is what they internalize and mimic. So they have experiences within their family and their extended family, and our securely attached child knows that they can trust adults to look after them and to comfort them. So adults are not scary people. They are people who they're going to turn to for help. So we see here that real development of trust, and books, that kind of thing for our children. Now, at quite a young age, a securely attached child will learn about cause and effect. So if I throw this, for example, it breaks. But much later on, the child develops empathy and remorse. These are quite sophisticated skills which rely on the secure internal working model functioning. So you can see how we've built this wall, and because everything is in place underneath it, we've got that development of empathy and being able to share and make friends, have that sort of give and take. Obviously they can settle at school and be educated, and they learn about cause and effect. How the child has internalised their place in the world and their sense of self and others. And of course that carries on growing as the child grows, but that's what our ideal internal working model should look like with our securely attached children. When a securely attached child looks in the mirror, what they see is a true reflection of themselves, a reflection of their internal working model. And that's something that we are striving to do in Therapeutic Parent, is to help the child to see a true reflection of the child, something that we see. Now let's think about the child who suffered trauma and what their wall or internal working model might look like. I'm basing this on a real child, but actually the story is common to many of our children, any child who suffered neglect or abuse, for example. So this child is unfortunately in a very different situation. He's born into a house with lots of other children and has spent many hours alone. The food is sporadic and it's not age appropriate, and when he's hungry he cries, but nobody comes. Now when we think about a child crying to be fed and nobody comes and they stay hungry, it means that they become desensitised to their bodily needs. This child is frightened, alone and in pain. He doesn't know he's a person. He has no impact on the world, and that's a very lonely place to be. What's happening in this child's brain is that the receptors are starting to switch off. You know, there's no point crying if no one's coming, and the child starts prioritising their survival. And because of that, because of those changes in the brain and the changes in the synapses, the brain changes due to toxic stress. There's no release and there's no escape, and the baby is in survival mode. So we see here how the baby's brain is adapting to the environment that they're in, and it starts prioritising what it needs for survival. So this little boy, he would have stopped crying when he was hungry because nobody was coming, and he would have needed to save his energy because he couldn't afford to lose those calories. So here on the wall we can see that sleep, warmth, response and love, everything is in jeopardy really, and the cracks in the wall for me represent the unhelpful synapses, the pathways in the brain, which are kind of shortcuts, and the child is learning, I can't trust adults, I'm alone, no one comes when I cry, if I cry when I get hurt, that's also quite dangerous, because in this child's circumstances, if he cried, an adult would come and be abusive to him. So he learnt to be silent, he learnt not to cry. So even if he was in pain or hungry, he wouldn't cry. He was left in a dirty nappy, which resulted in open sores, but his brain learnt to switch off the receptors to that pain. It was too dangerous to cry, and the priority was to stay alive. So this child then learnt that his only potential source of nurture or comfort was also his source of fear. How scary that is, to have to rely on that. Imagine that the only person who can save you and help you and look after you, be kind to you, feed you, is also the person who may abuse you or is likely to hurt you. That's really difficult for him to approach or to risk doing anything at all that's going to draw those people's attention to him. So we can see that because of this, like, there's no routine or a structure, there's no predictability in this child's life. You know, when it was the curtain stayed closed during the day, he didn't know when it was night or day. People were just dealing with him in a very sort of perfunctory manner. There was no sort of joyfulness going on, no happiness. So although he was stimulated, he'd been overstimulated because he would have been in a state of terror. He's in a cot where he's not seeing anybody most of the time, and he's very frightened. So one of his thumbs became smaller than the other because he was sucking his thumb all the time. He didn't learn eye contact. He learned to avoid eye contact. He didn't want to look at anyone because he would have felt like he was provoking. So that was another survival method really for him to stay alive, is don't look at anyone, just kind of stay invisible, really, stay quiet. In this house, the boundaries are absent and very changeable. So this little boy could never feel safe enough to explore or learn. He's just kind of stuck really in his cot and not really going anywhere. His language was very limited because of the amount of time he spent alone. So when he came into care when he was nearly 4 years old, he didn't really have any language. It just hadn't developed, because that's how we learn, isn't it? By what other people are saying. So you can forget things like water play and baths and things like that. And regulation, that means about being able to calm yourself. There's no way this child could ever learn to calm down. So what are his toys then? You know, what are the toys for a child who's left alone in a soiled nappy, in a dirty mattress? His own body. That's what he can do. He can play with perhaps the flies that are coming into the cot, his own bodily matter, poo, wee, his dirty nappy, the mattress, if there's any bedding there. He would see his siblings as a means of providing some food, because it was his siblings that were giving him food. So thank goodness he did have that. But otherwise, he's got no sense of family. He's got no sense of joy or playing or anything. Nothing like that is happening in this little boy's life. And we can see how the wall becomes more and more damaged. Like thinking about mirroring and trust, there's no way that there's going to be any trust developing, probably not seeing his extended family, and certainly not having any books or anything like that. There's lack of opportunities for any kind of growth, and this little boy was stuck in survival mode. The only example he does have for mirroring are from the frightening adults around him and his frightened siblings, all of them stuck in a place of fear. There's some extra unhelpful additions that we get now, because unfortunately this child's internal working model is so wobbly, and that's a word we use quite a lot, that we've got some things on top that wouldn't normally be there. So we've got shame, you know, toxic shame, and that becomes a really strong thing that's happening with this child. And fear, his life is governed by fear, and impulsiveness, because he's not linking cause and effect. So because nothing he does makes any sense. It's not like he cries and someone comes, he cries and nobody comes. So he can't link cause and effect. So therefore he will do things without thinking about, if I do this, this might happen. Nothing makes any sense, and all he's got left really is a sense of, I am bad, I am worthless. What a terrible place to be. So what this child sees then, when they look in the mirror of themselves, even when the child is moved to safe parents like kinship carers or a foster home, etc., he's still impulsive. He still needs to act now. He lives in the land of now. the thing is, he's in survival mode, and you can't just move this child out from where he's been, put him with you and think he's going to be okay now. It's going to take a long time. If you're on a plane and the plane is suddenly on fire or whatever, and you're running off the plane, you're not thinking about your next meal or what the other passengers might think of you if you push past them. You're simply focused on getting out and staying alive. Well, that's how our children live. They are focused on staying alive and just getting through the next 5 minutes. So when we get frustrated and we're thinking about the fact that our children are not linking cause and effect, and I've told them that if they do this, such and such will happen, and they just do it anyway. We must remember that our children are overwhelmed with toxic shame. They are overwhelmed with the fact that they have unmet needs, and if we cannot meet their unmet needs, they stay stuck. So when a child comes to live with you, then they're not thinking, yay, I'm safe now. And that's why we have to do therapeutic parenting. They have no concept about what safe is. So for example, say you think of your kitchen at the moment, probably 20 times a day you'll go to the cutlery drawer and get a knife, fork, spoon out. But now you have your kitchen remodeled and you've got the cutlery drawer moved somewhere else. How many times a day are you going to go back to the place where the cutlery drawer used to be? Many times. Well, that's because that's kind of hardwired in, you know, the cutlery drawers there, and that's where I go to. You're an adult, and you can think, oh, silly me, the kitchen's been remodeled, cutlery drawers moved now. But our children, where they've got hardwired stuff in, which is about adults hurt me, adults are unsafe, that's all they've got, and it's going to take a long time to undo that. And until then, you have a lot of automatic behaviours. Some of the behaviours you'll see will be things like fake smiles, anything that's about please don't hurt me, i.e. I'm just like you. People call that the honeymoon period sometimes. Baby voices, nonsense questions like don't forget I'm here. That fear, that real fear of invisibility. I might disappear and you might forget I'm there and I might die. These are real feelings that our children have, and they're all hallmarks of child trauma. It takes a long time to show the child they are safe and to meet the unmet needs. We have to rebuild their wall, their internal working model. We've got to undo all those gaps that you saw and fill them all up and really start from the bottom again and all the way up. But the difficulty is that it isn't just about starting again, it's about helping the child to unlearn all those difficult things they've already learned about parents being unsafe. And we do this through therapeutic parenting. In this picture here, the parent is sitting next to William Wobbly and just being there, just being with him to reassure him that he's okay, because this little chap didn't have that when he was a baby. He never had a parent saying, it's okay, I'm here for you. If a child hasn't had that, we've got to do it now. It doesn't matter if they're 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It doesn't matter. If they haven't had that very first step, parental presence, us being there with them, we've got to put it in. So if you're struggling with a child now, think about this. Think, where is my child emotionally? Not what age are they? At what age would I expect to see a child behaving the way that they're behaving now? And then you get in there and you meet that need through therapeutic parenting. And that is what will heal the child. And that is what will help your child to grow. You might be surrounded by people who don't get it, but we do. Everything we do is based on lived in experiences. We do lots of training, and as I say, we have lots of books. So you can get everything you need: support, training, connect to other therapeutic parents and trauma-informed supporting professionals. Just go to www.coect.co.uk and you can link up to get all the help you need for helping your child to recover from trauma. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please feel free to share with anybody that you want. Thank you.